you stand for and what you believe. Because too much times I find we select representatives and then we complaining. We didn't know that person was an atheist. We didn't know that person did not believe in God. We didn't know that person believed in euthanasia. That individual is strong in capital punishment. They believe in an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. That person believes that if you fall in the lower income group, that's your business. They don't want to help you. Do you believe in these things? So I believe quite a lot. We must look at what people believe in, what they stand for. Could that person tolerate you? That individual believe that you are beneath them. They can't stand you. They wouldn't even stand to have a conversation with you or be in the same environment with you. But you are promoting that person to represent you. We have to prepare and sit down and discuss these issues. And because these politicians represent us in the lower house where laws are made, where policy decisions are taken. And these policy decisions could determine what type of life we have. So we have to continue to, how would you know that? Because if the individuals grew up with you in school, was always involved in the community, you might well know this individual. And you say that person is a good person to represent us. That person like justice with compassion. They don't believe in vengeance. Is a normal, decent citizen. I am comfortable with them. But now, when a political party wants to win election, they might bring people in that they believe is popular. But if you don't have an audience for them to ask questions and to hold discussion, you may not be able to determine the direction they go. Euthanasia is a big issue in the world today. In some countries, it is legalized. Abortion, in some countries, it is legalized. We believe that a child is a gift from God, and we don't support abortion. Some people support abortion. Some people support it in circumstances, in times of rape and war. Some don't support it at all. Some support it. They say they are pro-choice. My body is mine, and I could do what I want with my body. And that 9-month-old child in my belly, I want it dead. I don't have the time. I can't make the sacrifice to keep the child because the father don't care, or whatever circumstances. Some people believe I'm pro-choice. I could do what I want with my body. You can't kill a child when it's born. That will be murder. But some countries pass laws that you could abort a child. It's always good to have an idea what your politicians believe on fundamental issues. Otherwise, later you could be saying, I never expect that from my representative because you didn't know him. The world come a global village. You have situation where we sell passports. And if you sell a passport to an individual, that individual have a right to vote and have a right to represent you. If you're a member of the Commonwealth, you could vote in Grenada and you could become the prime minister in Grenada because you're a member of the Commonwealth. You just have to be living here for 1 year. But with the CBI program, you just have to have enough money to buy a passport. You don't even have to come in Grenada. And then you are a member. I say these things because I believe it's important. After the last election in Grenada, we have had some new phenomenon that developed. We have situation where it was rumored, it was speculated that politicians was bought. That money was given to a politician that encouraged or convinced the politician to change side. That is significant. We are a small country. And if politicians could be easily bought, it means that you could go to the polling station, you could vote, and then your vote could be sold after election. We are dealing with 15 seats in Grenada. We are not separated because of ethnicity. We don't have racial problems here. In Ghana, you have a lot of votes as a result of ethnicity, Indians and black men. In Trinidad also you have the major parties separated to a certain extent or seriously influenced by race. But if you end up with an 8-6 or 9-10, a 9-4 or 9-6 in Grenada, or 8-7, and it is easy for politicians to buy a couple members, then the side you voted for may not be in the government. So it's an important factor that when we are selecting people to run for a political party, we take these things into consideration. Would my representative be bought? Would my representative sell my vote? There is no law in Grenada that says if I want to change side, I have to go back to the constituency for a new mandate. There is no law that says that. So a representative could come to you, lobby you, campaign with you. You believe that individual is genuine, but immediately after election, cross the floor. And your vote is sacrificed. This is a serious issue. More and more, you have very unscrupulous people. And you have a new phenomenon that has been introduced in Grenada politics. For the first time, I believe the act of corruption and the manner in which parliamentary representatives or people who represent the constituency are influenced by money is heartbreaking. It means that if this trend continue unabated and people don't speak about it and people don't object to it, it might become fait accompli. In a short space of time, it could be the norm that people vote and then people outside buy the vote. After the election, they buy the vote. So they just have to wait outside and give an individual a couple $1,000, 100,000, or $1 million, and that person cross through. You see, in a small country, policies are very important. The policy of the government is very important. And we have a democratic system, winner takes it all. So if you have 8 seats in parliament, it means that all the bills you bring in the house, if you would pass, although you have only 8 seats, one more, all the bills you bring would pass. And if the question of money and bribery and money influencing individuals to turn against that which they stood for, an individual could remain, and it doesn't matter how you vote, they buy your vote. We, the people in the constituency, have to be more meticulous about who we select. We have to prepare to question them, even if their winnability is strong. Because when a political party wants to win, they could tolerate very unscrupulous individuals with low morals because they want to win. And after the election, they say we go try to manage them. Our country is a small country. You have powerful companies that you have individuals, their budget is 4, 5, 6 billion. What they own. And the Grenada government budget is 1.1 billion to such. To tell you there are people in the world that is filthy rich. And nothing's wrong with that. But it can seriously influence the policy direction that you have. The only power you have is your vote. In the democratic system, that's important. One man, one vote. So it doesn't matter what people say. It doesn't matter whether you're a lawyer or a vagrant. On election day, you have one vote. And that vote counts. And you have to be careful what you do with your vote. And you have to continue to prepare to look at the character of individuals who come to you asking for that vote. More often than not, it's not you that go to them. It's them that come to you. You need to find out what these people believe. One of the issues in the world today is abortion. Another issue is euthanasia. That means you are sick, you're terminally ill, and some people is advocating it's better you take your life. Political vengeance. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. A very unchristian-like principle. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. You have to determine, do I advocate these policies? Do I want this? Do I subscribe to these policies? Because if you have representatives that subscribe to these policies and you vote them, then later on you have to deal with it. Do you support capital punishment? The death penalty? It is not an issue discussed much in this part of the world, but a lot of countries in Europe has abolished the death penalty. I don't think Grenada have had implemented capital punishment in Grenada in the last 40 years. We have not, but it's still on our books. Most Caribbean countries, a couple of decades ago, ceased capital punishment, but it is still on our books. Do we question our representative on that? Do we find representatives that are sensitive to the cries of those the destitute poor? Or do they believe when you're poor is a punishment? They say you should do better. Do we advocate that the person who is representing us in the constituency be cognizant, be sensitive, want to help the poor of the poor? What's about the elderly? Is the elderly a liability? Are they a burden? Does the person who represents you concern about the elderly? Or do they see them as a liability, a handbag? Because if they are in policy and they see the elderly as handbagging them, as a liability, somebody that should dead long, they would be hostile towards them. And that rippling effect could take place in a society where the elderly ones are praying to die because they are treated so badly by the younger ones. We have to determine what type of politician we want. What's about your foreign policy? That's another issue. Today in our society, ideology should not be a big issue. But it is. We have Europe and the United States of America in one block. You have Russia and China in another block. You have the African countries that the imperialist world want to seriously influence and control. Africa has 55, 56 countries, about 1.6 billion people. The big population in the world come from Africa, China, and India. But India have one prime minister. China have one prime minister. And Africa have about 55 or 56 leaders. So obviously, Africa is not united. Africa is a very rich country. More than half of the world's supply in almost everything comes from Africa. But because of economy and scale, Africa is considered a vulnerable country. And the Africans are not united. They're not working together. Some gravitate to Russia, some gravitate to China, and some gravitate to the United States of America. So Africa as a bloc is not negotiating together. Your representative has to be no concern about your foreign policy. A lot of Grenadians are in the United States of America, Europe, and the Western countries. So whether we like it or not, we have a significant population in these countries. A significant population. We have a significant population in the United States of America, Europe, France, and England. So our politicians in Grenada have to be careful with a foreign policy. What type of foreign policy we advocate? Do we advocate one that hurts our people? Or do we advocate one that benefits our people? Do we put Grenada first all the time? What is in the interest of Grenada? Do we provide information for our people? Or do we demolay ourselves so much that we could deal with everybody and offend no one? Our foreign policy is important. And sometimes you have to listen to the people who want to represent you to see how tactful and diplomatic and how successful they are, and hope they will carry on that same culture in the foreign dealings. We don't want to be a pawn, end up a pawn fighting between the West and the Eastern countries, because our foreign policy we end up taking sides. We pick up a sword and we join one of the TT gang. We are a small country, 110,000 people. And we have to be wise. We have to be smart. And you could give me a call if you want. The number to call is 410-3030. We take calls on this program. You could call it through long line or through WhatsApp. We take your call. We have to do better as a people. We have achieved a lot in Grenada over the years, and I always remember the statement of Eric Williams. When we got independence, I think as early as 1962, Trinidad, Jamaica, he said the British government suck us dry like an orange, but they plan not to mash up the skin. So we end up an independent country, and over the years, we have done a relatively good job. We spend a lot of effort on education. And it's not something you've seen overnight. We invested in schools. In 13 and a half years, during the Gary era, 28 schools were built for more Grenadians to get education. So Grenadians could write their name, could read. Formal education is of paramount importance. It is most invaluable. So a whole generation went to. And all other governments in the past continue on that trajectory to educate our people. Because the technology, the age we are in, education is important. You have to get better education. The time when the main source of employment was agriculture and the fishing industry. What you required less skilled labor, unskilled people coming from slavery. But now you need skilled individuals, not brute force, not just strength. Because man have made machine and other gadgets to assist him to make work lighter. So education is a factor. So yes, we need representative that is educated, that understand, that want to push education, that see the value in having a highly educated people. Today in our society, the productivity level in schools are unacceptably low. 30% of the children that exit school meets the basic requirement. This is unacceptable. Too much children are falling through the cracks. Not because the child cannot learn. It's simple our educators don't care. They're lackadaisical. They're unproductive. And they are not held accountable. They have lost their passion for education. They get lazy. So we need politicians that would understand that and advocate. Because the majority of the people in the country, as I said earlier, fall in the lower income group, under $3,000 a month. These are the people now you would call the proletariats. These are the people that the capitalist world would call vulnerable and poor. So we have, if we want to change that dynamics, we must have representative who is advocating for greater productivity in the education system. That should be increased to over 50%. So if you have an individual want to represent you, but they sees nothing wrong with the education system, you better keep far away from it. We have to have representative that will do everything within their power to increase productivity in the education system. Every day, you pick up the radio, you listen to the news. You see how fast we are moving where technology is concerned. Hear people talking about AI. You don't even know what that is. Data, computer, working from home, staying in one country and doing work in another country, and owning money from home. So obviously we have to have a people that is more educated. I ask, what do you expect from your politician? Remember, the politicians is a true reflection of us. And perhaps you could ask the question, what do you expect from your children? Fair question. What do you expect from our politician that we intend to choose to represent us? Are you producing children with the capability to represent you in the future? Are you satisfied with the children that go to school? Do you have the power to ensure that the children that go to school meets your basic requirements? Obviously, it's not you that make the curriculum. You don't control the subject matter that is taught in school. Should you control it? Should you advocate what is taught? Or should you ensure that your children excel in school? How do you do that? How do you do that? If your child go to school for 13 and a half years, 13 and a half years, what you expect in return? What are the subjects you believe that would give your child a competitive edge in school? What are the actions you should take to have your child disciplined and grow up with an appreciation for morality and good character? What is it? The number to call is 410-3030. You can also WhatsApp me and you can make your contribution. And the question we ask is, what do you expect from your politicians? And that question could be asked another way. What do you expect from your children in school? Because the children today are the leaders of tomorrow. What do you expect? Your child go to school for 13 and a half years. At the end of the day, do you expect them to exit school with the basic requirements? While you at home ensure that they have discipline, that they concern about good character and morality. And then in the school, they grow to have a culture and appreciation for what is taught. So that at the end of the day, they have the minimum requirements. We have to find answers. We have to strongly believe that there is nobody coming to help us. We have to have the answers. And as we send our children in school, we have to ensure that the child don't squander the opportunity for an education. Sometimes the child don't know you. You, the parent, have to sit down with the kid, with the child, and try to ensure that when they exit school, they have the minimum requirement. So they don't have to live in poverty. They have that which is necessary to find the jobs on the market. And your child is well disciplined. So it increases the chances that your child will be well rounded and could excel in the community and represent you. Too much of our children in jail. Too much of our children are vagrants. Too much of our children are delinquents on the block. Too much of our children are endowed with antisocial behavior. You don't have to believe me. Look in the community where you are. Look at the young men on the street. How much of them have a job? Go during the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. About 10:30 in the morning. And look at the amount of boys that are unemployed. I am willing to bet you, unless they're on holiday from their job, they don't have the basic requirement to get a job on the job market. Some of them could get work in agriculture. You don't need much talents to work in agriculture. But the muscles in the arms are not developed to use a cutlass or a fork or a spade or a cocoa knife to pick cocoa. The muscles in the hand are not developed for that. They soft as pop. So if they try that, they don't want to look embarrassed. So they tell the farmer, I'm not doing that job. They can't do it. The muscles in their hand is not developed. They have no practice in doing that. Now we have to be realistic. Some villages are struggling to get young boys in sports. There's a number of communities now, they cannot fool a cricket team. The boys are there, but they're not playing any cricket. Some communities struggling to fill a football team. The boys are there, but they're not playing cricket. They're on the block. They might be smoking weed. They might be drinking rum. It's easier for them to gamble. They might be cooking by the road, involving pretty larceny, and cussing everybody. They're angry. They're angry because they see themselves as being targeted. They see themselves as victims of the system. And they're angry. And they're getting violent. What do we expect from our children? Remember, the children today are the men and women of tomorrow. So if what you're producing today is substandard, is objectionable, is unacceptable, what do you expect they will be tomorrow? What type of politicians will we have tomorrow? We have to, as a people, you have to face the reality. We must be able to sit down and exchange ideas and face the truth. Blame game wouldn't help. Slavery wouldn't help. Slavery was abolished 1838, 1834, 1838. Slavery was abolished. We can't continue to blame slavery. We can't continue to blame our slave masters. Remember, our forefathers used to sell slaves for 700 years before the European gone by. So as far as I'm concerned, they're more guilty than Europeans. We have had independence long. 28 schools was built in 13 and a half years. We have the St. George's University here. We have the University of the West Indies. We have achieved a lot materially. But our school system has been too unproductive, making it a challenge for young people to enter the job market. What do you expect from your children? The same question I'm asking. What do we expect from our politicians? Do we expect our son just to be popular? How long popularity going to last? While they have some money from drugs, go back and watch the track record of all those involved in drugs, including Escobar. At one time, he wanted to pay out the national debt of his country. But he was really bad as a drug man. Those of you who involved in drugs and making money from it, even your children will get against you. Because when they're to school, the children will heckle them. Your father is a drug man. They want the money, but they don't want the stigma. A lot of the people involved in drugs, their children end up taking drugs. It breaks the heart of the fathers to see their daughters end up with some of their drug man friends and used as mules to carry drugs. But what you expect? You play with fire, you'll get burned. If you decide to use drugs and sell drugs, your children is going to end up in the drugs. And sometimes your children is not as wise as you, not to consume it in great quantity. And they get addicted. And later on, with all the big house and the cars and the wealth you have one among the dotish children because you got involved in drugs. Your daughter is on drugs. And if you believe and a man on addict is bad, imagine a woman that is a coke addict. It's a sorry sight. It breaks your heart. We as a people have to ask ourselves these hard questions. What do we expect from our children? It is easy to ask that about your neighbor's child. But it's hard to face the mirror and ask, what do we expect from our children? The writing is on the wall. Don't walk away. Some of the children in primary school, the die is already cast. When they exit school, they would not have a good education that could carry them on in hard time. Sometimes they get lucky. They hit the lotto. But most of the people who win lotto, most of them regret after 5 years. So you don't have to believe me when I speak. You could always go and check the statistics. What do we expect? The quicker we ask ourselves this question, the quicker we're not afraid to hold this discussion among ourselves and ask, what do we expect? Your children are going to school. What do you expect from them? At the end of 13 and a half years, because they go to school at 2.5, compulsory age is 5. They leave school at 16, 17, 18, sometimes 20. And about 70% of these children leave school without the minimum requirements. And they don't have what it takes to fill the jobs that are available. Statistics from some of the reputable organizations in the Caribbean says that 60% of the young people that are looking for jobs don't have the wherewithal for the jobs available. There are jobs available, but they don't have the basic qualification, the attitude, the wherewithal for the jobs available. So they're struggling. They're struggling to find employment. And the statistics will tell you, history will tell you, anywhere you have high unemployment, you're likely to have high level of social decadence, violence, domestic crime, sexual crime, and even disease. Because when people are poor and they don't have the basic requirements, they're like a medium for disease to flourish. Grenada is a small country, like most of the islands in the Caribbean. And we could solve these challenges faster than countries with massive population like Brazil. We can ensure that our children in school does better. And in 5 to 10 years, we can raise the productivity level in school so that more than 50% of the children exiting school would have the basic requirements. Parents, the common entrance result has just, I don't think they get answer yet, but the children did the examination, about 2,000 children. And government is stating that all these children will go to secondary school because the government have an up and out mentality. It's almost a paradox. They have an up and out mentality, but they increase the age of school. In school, they have an up and out mentality, but they increase the age in school. I don't know what tomfoolery is that. But in 5 years from now, these 2,000 children that enter the school will be exiting school. And out of these 2,000 that enter school, what percentage would meet the minimum requirement? Based upon the statistics now, 70% fail to meet the minimum requirement. We could make the necessary changes that 50% and 50% will be 1,000 would meet the minimum requirement. We could make the necessary changes now. That's 50%. We have over 500 soca artists in Grenada. Why don't we teach Spanish in primary school? Why Spanish? All governments, and there is no reason for us to believe that governments in the future would not continue in that direction, have a very good relationship with Latin America. And the population in Latin America would swallow ours. Venezuela have over more than 30 million people. Mexico have more than 30 million people. Grenada have 110,000. If we have over 500 soca artists in Grenada, and they learn basic Spanish in primary school, I'm absolutely certain that some of their music will be hot in Venezuela and Mexico and Costa Rica and other Spanish countries, including Puerto Rico. And we will have more millionaires from our soca artists. Reggae is placed in the UNESCO, register in UNESCO Hall of Fame, something like that. But reggae music is not taught in schools in Jamaica. And Jamaica have a lot of violence. But music is not taught in school. We should teach music in school in Grenada. In primary school, teach music, teach Spanish. Make sure our children do mathematics, biology, chemistry, physics, French, and Spanish. Put emphasis on these things. Discuss with children. As you determine what age you get involved in business. When somebody enter the world of work, in addition to their straight job, they must have an additional source of income. We could make a difference. And I ask the question as I end. What do you expect from the political representative that you select? And you could answer that question, What do you expect from your children in school? Because the children of today are the men and women and the politicians of tomorrow. We want to thank you very much from Galaxy Equalizers. And we encourage you to share our program, Studio Galaxy 473 from Confero, to share our program and like our program and subscribe to our program. We are the new kid on block, and you can help us spread our information. We provoke discussion. We're back with you again on Saturday on Studio Galaxy 473. Thank you very much. relative